So today's webinar, we're going to focus more on the do's in tendering. So I'll introduce Lois, who will be able to take us through the whole presentation. And then from there, we can proceed now to the Q&A section. So Lois.
So much, Maimuna. Hey, let's get started. Officer for TenderSoko, and I'm excited to have you here. And I hope by the end of this session, you're going to walk away with valuable insights that will help you to succeed in the tendering process. So we can just dive into it. So now, overview of what will be discussed today. The main objectives is we're going to talk about the tendering do's and don'ts. And now we also have one of the experts within us, who is Edward Maina, who has been doing this for so long and is so good at filling the tender documents. So in case you have any question in regards to how you can fill a tender, how you can, what are the requirements, he's so good at it, so he'll be guiding us through. So the presentation will be as short as possible so that we can have time for him to present all that. And now, the first thing now, the one thing that we are supposed to look at is on the why, first of all, why tendering and how important is tendering, because it always allows business to secure more contracts, so whereby they are competing in a more open and fair process. And this always ensures that there is transparency and helps organizations to get the best services or products. For example, for businesses like yours, tendering more opens doors to new opportunities, whether is it with government entities, NGOs, private organizations, institutions. So when you win a tender, it can lead to a consistent revenue, helping you build your company's reputation and grow your business. However, in order for you to succeed, you need an approach. In order for you to succeed, you need an approach that is very clear. And one of the key things you have to ensure you're so strategic. And this is exactly what is going to bring us to the objectives of today. Now, the role of TenderSoko when it comes to this. For TenderSoko, our goal is just to help the businesses like yours to find and apply for tenders more easily, whereby we bring together all opportunities from the various sectors and put them in one platform for you to access them, as well as offer personalized notifications, so you never miss on a tender that's relevant to your business. And having said that, through our platform, in a position of browsing tenders, either by industry, location, value, access the documents that are required, and even submit applications seamlessly. So our main aim is always to help you spend less time searching and more time winning. And as we had said about the objectives of the webinar, the objective of the webinar is mainly to help us identify the key practices for success, the common pitfalls to avoid, and also how to improve your chances of winning. So one key do, we are going to move into the do's, and one key do is to understand the tender documents thoroughly. So this is the most critical step in tendering. Thoroughly understanding the tender document whereby you don't just skim through them. You take your time to understand all the requirements, look at the eligibility criteria, what are the technical specifications, the submission deadlines. If anything seems unclear, you don't hesitate. You always ask for clarification, because tender documents are so technical and very complex, and you can misinterpret them. The more you misinterpret it, it means that you're going to be disqualified. Another do is to ensure that you provide clear financials. This is very essential. You have to be in a position of breaking down your financials clearly, whereby the procuring entity can understand where are we getting the value, because when your budget is clearly broken down, and each cost is well explained in relation to the scope of the project, you make sure that the pricing aligns with what you're offering and you're providing value for the money, because that's why these entities don't go direct to source from clients or buy the product. They're looking at having so many bids that they can choose them. So, and one misconception is many businesses will always believe that the lowest bid always wins, but that's not always true. the issuers or the procuring entities are always looking for the best value, not necessarily the cheapest bid. It doesn't, having the cheapest bid will never demonstrate that you qualify for the service of it. It's all about how are you breaking down, because they're also looking at quality of the product. And prior to it, there's always a budget that is set. So if your budget is so low, if your quotation is so low from the budget that has been stated, it always seems to be off. Another thing that you're supposed to consider is another thing that you're supposed to consider is to ensure that you submit your bid on time and ensure that your bid is accurate, because most companies will wait the last minute submit. Important for you, once the tender has been advertised, access it early so that you can have enough time to go through it, ask for inquiries if you have any questions, if there's something that you're not understanding within the time frame you've been given to ask the inquiries, or in a position of asking the inquiries and getting the feedback. Because you get that some clients will always lose a major contract because they submitted their bid a few minutes past the deadline, and because they have clearly stipulated the time is 4 p.m. and for your case you're submitting a bid at 4:30, so you get some instances your bid is automatically cancelled. You've taken a lot of time going into the process, but since you submitted late, you're disqualified. Another thing that you have to consider when submitting your bid is ethics and professionalism. You have to be professional when you're submitting it, because at the end of the day, they didn't look for someone who is not within the space. They wanted to work with a company because they believe as a company you have a reputation to maintain. You have a reputation to maintain, and you want to meet the deadline. So you have to ensure that you're meeting the obligations or the timelines and everything. So because at the end of the day, so that you don't get yourself in so many legal processes, you are submit on time and you are good to go. Another thing is okay, so let's go to the next thing. I'll move to the don'ts. I'll try to move to the common pitfalls. Now, this is about what not to do. One of the most common mistakes people do is ignoring the eligibility criteria. They've just said this tender is for for the people in the agro category, and you're not within the category, you don't have the certificate, you're going to ahead and applying for that tender. That means you're always automatically disqualified. So it's always very important to ensure that you're meeting the qualifications before submitting a bid. So otherwise, you're always wasting your time and also the issuer's time. And another pitfall is also submitting incomplete documents. For example, you can have there's a missing form. Maybe the CR12 is not attached. The tax compliance certificate is almost expiring. This can result in immediate disqualification. So it's always very important for you to create a checklist of all the required documents and always double check them before you submit. Another common pitfall is you underbidder or overpromise. I had just talked about it before. So you always underestimate the project cost, and this can lead to problems down the road, whereby you're getting that you are not in a position to deliver because now you're realizing the amount you are going to make from this project is below what you are expecting. So you get now you're going to the legal way with entities where, since you cannot meet all the requirements. So it's always very important for you to not under promise and not over promise, because the more you over promise, you're damaging your credibility, and you are not in a position of delivering. So it's always very important. Now, when you're submitting a bid, be logical, look at the time frames, look at the project, ensure that you are up to par with what is needed. Another thing is neglecting the networking and the follow-up. So never neglect those networking sessions. Even if you don't win the tender, contact the procuring entity to ask for feedback, because they're required to give you the reasons why you didn't win a specific tender. We've been in a position to see so many organizations going to court because they felt that their bid was as per the expectation, as per their requirements, and they were not given the tender. So they want to understand why, and it is the role of the issuer or the procuring entity to ensure that they are giving you feedback, and the feedback you're given is always very valuable for your future bids. So you also have to keep in touch with the key decision makers. who are the key decision makers in the organizations, who are the key decision makers in the organization. You may not have won this time, but building that relationship can lead to success down the line. So networking simply helps you to stay visible and increase your chances of winning future tenders. So having talked about that, I'll move to the next. Having talked about that, I want it to be as short as possible so that you can have you share your experience. If you have a question, someone can respond to it. So as I had said, it's always very important to ensure that you are accessing these tenders on time. Apart from the accessing these tenders on time, you're preparing on time, and you'll get, if there are addendums, if there are pre-bid meetings, never miss on them. Understand why are they there, and you'll be in a position of moving forward. So for the next session, I'll get it back to Maimuna so that she can invite Edward, or if someone has something to say, you can just share on chat and you'll be unmuted and you'll be in a position of communicating. So Maimuna will invite Edward, who will in turn share the experience, because he has been filling documents for clients for so long, and he is in a great position of helping you understand how do you fill documents, how do you because he has been doing it for so long, and that's
For the presentation. I think you covered most of the do's and don'ts. The next session will move to the Q&A session. So if you have a question or a specific topic that you would like for us to handle, you can be able to drop it on the chat box, whereby we'll be able to review them and answer them accordingly. In the meantime, as you share your inquiries on the chat box, I would like to invite Edward to briefly introduce himself and a little bit of what he does. Edward?
Yes, yes. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is hearing my voice. I would like to share about traders. I've been a trader specialist for a very long time, maybe like 4 years down the line. And I would also like to touch on the most most of the requirements of a tender. For a tender, the first thing that you have to understand before doing any tender. I hope Maimuna, are you hearing me?
yes, you're
Hello?
audible.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So before doing any tender, what you have to understand first is what we call the mandatories. The mandatories of a tender they include one thing, the certificate of incorporation. We have the PIN certificate. We also have the tax compliance. Yeah. So based on that, there are two categories of a tender. You have to understand whether a tender is a special uh, is for special groups or whether a tender is open. If a tender is open, that means you will have to provide the bid bonds. If you have to provide the bid bonds, then you also have to understand some criteria for providing the bid bond, whether it's from commercial banks or it's from any financial institution. That one can be from an insurance company. Again, it can also be from a microfinance banking system. That one includes like Lafiki Microfinance. They also include SMEP. That is where you can request a bid bond from. So if a tender is not open, then it belongs to a special group. You also have to understand whether it is special for women, youths, all the people with disability. Again, after understanding whether a tender is open or special, you will also have to provide a business permit. I'm just giving you a brief description of a general tender. A tender, basically, there are different types of tender. There are those that belongs to general supplies. There are those that are of civil works, of mechanical, based on any tender. So I'm saying that basically because under this mandatory, there's what we call NCAs. That one has for civil works, some mechanicals, loads. building, such situations. So at that situation, you will have to provide what we call the NCAs. After the mandatories, those are basically the mandatories of a tender. Then, number two, you'll have to provide what we call the director's details. The director's details shall include, you'll have to provide the director's ID, the CR12, and also there, you can also include the power of attorney, where you will sign on behalf. Maybe you are filling the documents on behalf of the director or such issues. Then under that, also in a tender, you should also look at things like personnel. Under personnel, you should understand this one is based on the type of attender we have. Like I just said, the civil works, we have to provide people like engineers. For general supplies, we have to provide people like procurement officers, people who've done procurement degree or diplomas or finance. So at that, you have to understand the details, the requirement of that tender. You have to understand what that tender requires in specific. If a tender requires a person with a diploma, if a tender requires a person with a degree, you have to provide that requirement. Again, at the personnel, you can also be questioned about the experience of that particular personnel. Experience based on a tender, you should provide what we call, if you are told to provide an experience of a person who is above 3 years. Experience of that personnel is based on when that person did graduate. If in particular, that person graduated on 2020, and you're told to provide a person maybe in a general supply, someone who have done finance, and you are required to provide a requirement of a personnel in finance option or procurement, you should provide a person who have graduated and have an experience of 3 years and above. Then that means from 2020 to 2024, you should calculate those years, then get the years of that person, and you'll get the experiences of that person. So after the personnel, you should understand in any tender, a tender is like a person going for a job. You must provide an experience of your company. You cannot be doing a general supply, a tender under general supply, yet you have experiences of building work. That one cannot happen. So you have to be so specific. In a such as a situation, what I usually find, maybe you are told to provide, you are doing a maintenance of a generator. And then a client will provide you the experiences of construction, or maybe he supplied some beans somewhere. So at that situation, you cannot provide such experiences. You have to be so specific. If you get to be so specific, these guys, the procuring entities, they will see this company is eligible to do this kind of work. And that experiences. Also, other experiences, we have what we call specific experiences and general experiences. Other specific experiences, that is what is specific to that tender. If they are maybe requested to do a supply of maybe a dry food stuff, you should provide dry food stuff. You cannot provide the experience of meat or fresh fruits. It should be specific of anything that is a dry cereal, like maize, beans, those things. So that is other specific experiences. If you also instructed to provide general experiences, that is any other thing, not excluding what you are required to provide, but any other job you've ever done under your company's name, that one you can provide. But at the stipulated time that is required in a tender, you can be maybe requested to provide an experience which is of not more than 3 years or 4 years. So you cannot, if you're told maybe to provide an experience which is of 3 years, you cannot provide an experience which is of 2014, yet you are being requested to provide an experience which is of 3 years, or that is between 3 years. So after experiences, that is, I've described the differences between the specific and the general experiences. After the experiences, then we have what we call financials. Depending on a tender, there are those tenders that will request you to provide what we call line of credit. There are those tenders that will request you to provide bank statements, although these are so rare. Maybe like Kenha will request you to provide that, definitely, or even Kura nowadays. But in other institutions, I rarely find them. So if you are requested to provide a line of credit, then you should get that one from the bank. Again, if you are required to provide the bank statements, they should be in a good financial position. They should be explaining whether can you handle that job. Do you have that amount of money to handle that job? If you're not capable, depending on your financial balances or transactions, then definitely you're going to be kicked out. Also, the financials, we have what we call audited accounts. And audited accounts, this is where very many people fail, because you'll go there, just get someone to do for you audited accounts. Audited accounts should be done by an auditor, and an auditor should be having two key items. One is the auditor's practicing license. Again, the auditor should also be having what we call the auditor's practicing number. Most of the tenders will request you to provide all this for audited accounts. This means what? If you are requested to provide audited accounts for the last 3 years, that one should be for the 2023 example, that is I'm giving 2023, 2022, and 2021. In all these audited accounts, the ratios, they should be varying. The ratios, they usually have some comparison. Like if you talk about turnover of 2023, obvious there'll be in that audited accounts for 2023, there should be also be a turnover of 2022. If you go to the audited accounts for the year 2022, you should also be having the turnover for year 2023, year 2022 and year 2021. So they should be having that comparison and that relationship. Also, in each and every page of those audited accounts, they should be signed by the auditor's stamp. The auditor's stamp should be having the auditor's practicing number, because I've gotten some legal letter because of neglecting all this. So the audited accounts, they should be signed, all pages, by the stamp of the company, signed by the director or the person who is signing the tender, and also they should also be signed by the auditor personally, using the stamp and also a different signature that is differing from the signature of the director and that of the auditor. Apart from that, depending on the tender, there's also what we call also at the technical part. There's what we call things like methodology, things like work program, things like organization chart. These are things that we should also include in a tender, depending on the requirements and the category of a tender. Also, yes, and also the technical part. Depending on a tender, there's what we call manufacturer's authorization. If maybe you are supplying something that in Kenya we don't manufacture, or if we manufacture, then you are required to provide what we call the manufacturer's authorization, the brochures or the catalogs, and also the prices, okay, from the manufacturers. Depending on a tender, these requirements are so strict. Most of the people usually fake this manufacturer's authorization. You should also provide an email in the manufacturer section. There is an email. So what happens in a procuring entity? They usually focus on that email, whether you faked it or you never fake it. Also, if you faked it, they'll just know. They have very many means of communicating with the manufacturers that you said that will provide the goods or the products. Yeah, now to finalize on that, there's what we call the presentation of the document. I see many people usually they serialize. These are things like serializing, the binding. The most effective means of binding is not using the springs, the spring. Yo, it is using the kamba. You use a needle and a kamba, and you also use a tape binding. That is what I mean. So that is the best. That is the best in any institution in this Kenya. I've done almost every tender in this republic, and I know that is the best. I've never gotten a regret on that. Also, there's what also I was saying before, that is serialization. Most of the people use hard method. You just slide 1 to the 10. Not only in what we call most of the institution that are so serious, like Kenya or KWS, they will never even look at your tender if you use hard method. So there's a small machine that is used for serializing. It is good that when you're presenting your document, it should be well presented, serialized, so that those guys they will understand that the document is well presented, well serialized. Yeah. Also, there's also what we call in the attachments. Now, in the attachments, where we are attaching all this, what I've been mentioning to you, the mandatories, the mandatories, the directors' details, personnel experiences, financials, and the technical part. Also, in the presentation part, you should also be inclusive of what we call separator. That is a different paper from what you are using, or a color that is different from the original color that you used to print the document, so that these guys, they can see how you've presented your attachments. Because attender is just like an exam. Attender, what I usually say about attender, if you want to win attender, it's just simple. Take it like a person or a people who is in a kindergarten. Just give an instruction, just following them. Just follow the instructions. And if you follow these instructions to the letter, like you give the kindergarten approach, just follow the simple instruction that be given, and these guys will never say anywhere to make you go wrong. I've seen someone saying that he does screening and fumigation. I'm so familiar to this. To inform you, I've won a lot of tenders, including the one who is doing SGL screening from Mombasa to Naivasha. I won that tender. The one who is doing screening from all post banks in Kenya. I won that tender for someone. But the simple reason I'm saying this is just to make you understand that a tender is just following the instructions. And you should always approach a tender in a kindergarten method. I don't think I'll have much to say. Or anyone who has a question can ask.
There's a question for you, Edward, from Simon. How viable is a business model where bidding companies seek to subcontract to partners with relevant expertise and capability? What is allowed and what is not?
I'm saying about subcontracting, I wanted to understand this, Simon. There's also there's what we call subcontracting when you are bidding the document and after you've won the tender. It is okay. I can answer the both. If you are subcontracting, explain this in two terms. Yeah. Maybe you've seen a tender, you don't have all the requirements, but there's this guy that you know that I can help you in providing the rest of the requirements. These requirements include the experiences of your company. The experiences, maybe you registered your company in 2023 or even 2024, and you are required to provide like 3 to 5 experiences. You see, you cannot say that your company was registered in 2024, yeah, and you've done like 5 contracts. That one will not make sense. So what you can do under this situation, you can seek a help from, maybe if you have a guy or a company relationship with another person who can help you with these experiences. Uh, Experiences or any other relevant information that maybe your company did not qualify, like the audited account. One thing, what will happen now there? What will happen? You will have to provide the information of the primary. You'll be having primary company. Which one? Which will be yours, and also you'll be having a secondary company. If you happen to have such a relationship between the primary and the secondary company, what will happen? You just have to write a declaration, and you sign. Both directors will sign to put all the stamps. That is for primary company and the secondary company. So, if the secondary company can provide the rest of the requirements, then you can proceed with the tender, and you can do the tender as a joint venture. Or even you can say that you are subcontracting with this company, but you must have that declaration or a clause indicating that you are going to do the job, or you are going to be the document as a both company, the primary and the secondary. Now, if you want the job, you can also subcontract the job. This is just information that you just write a letter to the procuring entity. And that is what happens. If you write a letter to them, they just sign and confirm whether the two directors are existing, if they're existing, if they have a an agreement, then we just allowed to sign a letter and you can do the job. Maybe can I have another question? Or Simon, are you okay with the answer I've given you?
Yes, the answer is quite satisfying.
Yeah.
I think now we can move to the next question from Ted. How can companies ensure their bid security submission is compliant, and what are the common reasons for rejection due to bid security issues?
Okay. Under bid security, this is what we call the bid bond. I've said, as I started, there are 2 types of tender. Okay, tenders are majorly classified into 2. There's what we call an open tender and a special tender. If a tender is open, then automatically you must provide a bid bond or the bid security. If a tender is special, then you provide the rates that I said, the AGPO, the AGPO certificate. They include the youth, the women, the people with disability. Now, if a tender is open, you have to provide a bid security. A bid security, it is also classified into 2. A bid security, a tender can request you to provide a bid security from a commercial bank. That is a very strict restriction. If you are told from a commercial bank, that is, those are like the banks, maybe like Equity, Family Bank, the big banks. If you are not told from commercial bank, or if you are told from commercial bank stroke financial institution, then you can provide from a microfinance or an insurance company. If you are given those, choices. But a strict tender, like the one we did for KWS, they were so strict. They were from a commercial bank. So you cannot use a bank like Smith or Rafiki or any other insurance company. So exactly what I'm saying, for you to confirm your bid security, one thing, you have to confirm the bid amounts. The bid amount you'll be instructed in a tender, like they require this bid amount, they require this bid amount. So that is the first thing. You have to confirm the bid amount. That one is structured automatically in a tender. So if you happen to now to confirm the bid amount, the second thing you will have to confirm is the bid validity. If you now confirm the bid validity and you have the details of the company, or maybe you're requesting on behalf of your company, now you can request for the bid board. So the two most important aspects in the bid security is the bid amount and the bid validity. And the bid validity. And now the company's details. That is enough. And after getting this bid board or the bid security, that is a bid board, obviously. There are two things, there are like four things that we should confirm before even putting it into a document. One, does your company details tally with the details that is given in the tender security or in the bid board? So does your company's details, like you will find them, most of them what normally I've been finding somewhere else is that you'll find that your address doesn't look alike with what is in the bid board. That one can fail you. Your company address. If someone puts there that your box, and your address leads Nairobi, that is the address. The bid security should be having the address that will be exactly on the stamp that you are using to stamp your document. So that is one thing, the address. Again, the amount in words, does it tally with the amount in figure? And the both, does they tally with what is required in the document? That is another issue. If they tally, then well and good. Again, what also matters is the validity. You should calculate them. If you are told to each of these, we should be in a position to calculate the months that are required and approximately calculate the dates that are put on the bid bond or the bid security. Then you can get the validity. Maybe another question.
So the next question is from Frida. Hi, I would like to inquire if I am new in tenders and I have no experience in such, which type of tender should I go for?
Okay, I'll tell you this uh, for the record. If you don't have experiences, what happens and what I've been doing for very many people, if your company was registered maybe sometimes years back, or maybe like 1 year, we usually create experiences for clients. Like if maybe you are doing a supply of dry stuff, dry food stuff, we can create experiences for you. These experiences will be having the company's letterhead and all your details, the amounts that are required in a tender. Because in a tender, most of the things that are most serious, they even don't include experiences as far as you've provided them. The most serious thing, they are what the government is looking for. That is the tax compliance. That is the first thing. If you have that one, and you have all the financials, then I guess anyone can do a tender. So, as I was saying, if you don't have experiences, and maybe a company has maybe above like 7 months, this one we can always um, create them for you, and you can use them whatever, depending on the category of the tender that you are doing. Any other question? Just ask as many questions as possible.
Edward, there's a question I
Yes.
want you to handle on one. There's someone who asked a question: how how to identify the right tender from fake ones? Apart from that, there's someone who complained on not getting feedback on tenders submitted. I think I talked about that, whereby you're supposed to ask for the feedback so that you can know where you are. It's the same questions on how to identify the right tender and the right company. So most people are worried on applying for the wrong tenders from the wrong companies and maybe losing money. Another thing that another question that I want to give you like a comprehensive so that you can handle them, because I can see we are almost time is almost over. Another question was on can the cost of tenders be subject to the ones I choose as opposed to one flat fee? In the sense that maybe for those tenders that do charge now, and someone was worried about procuring entities charging so much for the tenders. And before you answer all those questions, I think those were the main questions. Unless someone has another question, I've shared on chat Edward's number for anyone who wants to consult with him on a tender application, the filling process and everything. They can just directly contact him. He's always open to do that, because for TenderSoko, we only share the opportunities. We don't help you fill the documents, or we don't help you fill the tender documents. Edward does that. We've been working with him for so long, and he has been viable to most of our clients. So another on before you answer those, just to add on the question that Simon asked, Simon, you cannot transfer responsibility when you are subcontracting. You as the main contractor, you're the one who has the full responsibility on that specific tender. Maybe the subcontractor has just a specific task that he's handling. So in case of anything, accountability will always stay with the main contractor. So it's always very important for you to know that, and ensure that if there are any failures by the subcontractor, they are always going to reflect on the main contractor. So you always have to think about who are you choosing as your subcontractor. Now, Edward, you can answer the question.
What you asked about identifying the right tender. About identifying the right tender, as I said, there are different types of companies that maybe when one was registering had one in mind, because there are tenders that are of general supplies, there are tenders that are of civil works, there are tenders that are consultants. So what happens for you to identify the right tender? It is upon you to understand your company. Was it when you are registering it? Did they have all the criteria? If you are doing air and ticketing, did you apply for YATA? Did you apply for CATA? Did you apply for TRA? Now, if you never applied for that, then you cannot do such a type of a tender. If you also registered a company, you never applied for NCS, you cannot do any civil work. Yeah, you have to be so specific, because there are those tenders that requires those specific documents. So for you to identify the right tender, you have to understand personally, if you wanted general supplies, you just need an AGPO certificate, and you're exempted from most of these requirements. There are those tenders that will not request you to provide experiences if you have the AGPO certificate. There are those tenders, if you have the AGPO certificate, they will not request you to provide the permit. So if you registered a company, did you apply for AGPO certificate? If you did, then you are most eligible for most of the tenders. So for identifying the right tender, it is upon you. If you have all these, the mandatories that I'm saying, the NCS, the YATA, if it is a tender for mechanical, also the NCS, it is tender for supply of petroleum, the IPRA certificate. If it is solar works, you have to be having those kind of certificates. If then you have them, you have the experiences. Does your company qualify to be for the expenses to be created? Does your company qualify? Because we cannot say that your company was registered on, say we are on October. Your company was registered on August. Then you have like 3 experiences. One costing 20 million. Another one costing 30 million. Another one costing 40 million. This one will not make sense. So you have to give your company some time to mature up. So that if this company gets up to 2 years, then these experiences can be created for you and you can do the tender. So I guess I've answered about how to identify the right tender. You have to do you have the right experiences? Do you have the right statutories, that is the mandatories? If you are doing civil works na huna NCA, kama unafanyaga kazi ya subprime na huna NCA na unataka kufanya buildings, that one will not happen. You must get the NCAs. So that is how to identify the right tender. So about the right company to do a tender. One thing I usually discourage is person participating in county tender. They are so they are so boring because if you don't have someone inside, you'll not get paid. Utazungushana na gava hivi mtu atolewe kama ni governor na payments zako. I have someone sahi kutoka 2012 he has been pushing some payments in Kirinyaga County and he has never gotten a single cent. Another one in Luaka and Kikuyu. So what I discourage is counties because they are so discriminatory. What happens in counties is a lot of corruption. There's a lot of corruption. But my best institutions, they include any government parastatal. They are so perfect. Any parastatal, they are so perfect. There's also, there are very good institutions in this Kenya. Like the KPC, Kenyan has some issues, but also perfect. There's LELEC. There's also MTLH. There's also what we call CBK. That is the best. That is the first tender I won without any connection, just doing perfect documentation. So yeah, those are most of the good institutions that I like working for. About payment, I think I've explained with the issue of the counties. Those are the worst, and also the care attenders. For those who does I say works, like when we talk about road construction. So I guess I've answered. I guess I've answered the question. If anyone has another question, maybe I can continue answering.
We have a new website whereby we have different FAQs in regards to tenders, everything you need to know about tenders. So maybe I'll just post it on the chat. That is tenders.website for you to see some of the FAQs that are available there. Additionally, Lois had also shared Edward's number for those who need a one-on-one consultation. I think having no question, can be able to end the session there. Thank you so much for joining us. You can reach out to us using the contacts that have been shared on the chat platform in case of any inquiry, or maybe you need a certain clarification on some of the topics that were discussed. Thank you.
In addition to what Maimuna has said, in case you have any question, like for example, you're not sure about the organization you want to apply a tender for, always reach out to us. Just call us on our numbers or email us. We'll be in a position of guiding you on that. Thank you. That one, we don't charge for that because we're just trying to help you understand if the organization is legit or not. Thank you.